Welcome to the Green Tea Bakery. I'm your host, Christine, and in this Green Light Path series, I interview entrepreneurs, creatives, and overall ambitious people about their dreams and goals, to then interview them again in 3 years and see the progress. Stay tuned to see the journey unfold. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Tea Bakery. I'm your host, Christine, and today I'm here with a creative, talented woman who started as an actress and developed a very unique path in life. She's a writer, focuses on mindful language learning, and is an independent translator. Paulina, welcome. The first question I wanted to ask you as a warm-up is, what is something that brought you joy today, particularly?
Interesting. Okay, my mom stopping by with a bag full of celery juice. I'm a big celery juice drinker and I haven't been drinking it for the past 2 weeks because I've been very, very busy. And so my mom just dropped a huge bag with celery juice and that made my day.
That's amazing. She came to take care of you and
Yes, exactly.
make sure you have it. But that's amazing. Very beautiful. So, going into your story a little bit, what is some context from your early life that you feel like defines the most who you are today?
Well, definitely taking the risk of living abroad by myself when I was 18 definitely changed the course of my life because I learned English. And I think that that was the beginning of everything.
We'll get more into this in a second, what exactly this entire journey with language learning has been to you and how you developed into what you do in life. But I love that, yes, honestly, moving abroad, because same for me when I was 18, it was the first time I moved away. And I think that changes everything and really changes who you are as a person, the opportunities you have in life, and just in general, how you view everything. That really that is really a big step. So I understand that for sure. So as you were a child, you are from Mexico, right? So what was your big dream when you were a little kid? Like, what did you enjoy doing? What brought you joy? What were the fun things that you really dreamed about when you were little?
I always wanted to be an actress when I was little. I would always play whenever my cousins came home to my house. We would always play soap operas. Like I would be the leading, or I would be like one of the girls that we would see on the TV that were mostly soap operas. I would always play that, and yeah, I always wanted to be an actor.
That's amazing. And how did you start then getting into acting? Because that's the reason you moved abroad, right? In first place when you were 18. So how was that entire from I'm playing with my cousins and I'm having fun doing those little soap operas? How did it become into, okay, no, I'm actually going to do this?
I really wanted to be part of this TV show that was called Código Fama. So that was the first time I actually told my parents that I wanted to be an actress and that I really, really, really had that dream and I really wanted to make it come true. And so they took me to Mexico City. We drove very early in the morning. I had to be there at 3 a.m. in the morning because it was a huge, huge casting call for all Mexico. And so I don't know, it was 3,000 kids in only Mexico City, and then it was Monterrey and all over Mexico. And so that was the very first time I told my parents that I wanted to do this. I went to that audition and I didn't end up being at the show. But yeah, that was the very first time I remember taking it seriously.
How old were you when you drove with your parents to that show?
I was 9.
You were saying how learning English was also connected to that dream of being an actress and this entire move. So could you walk me through this journey? So first you're 9, you go for the first time to a casting. You don't get it, but you still feel like this is really what I want to do. So what was your journey then to realize, okay, what are my options? How can I actually move along to realize this dream?
But when I finished high school, I really wanted to embark on this journey, but I didn't want to be in Mexico. I just felt that I wanted to act in English and I wanted to be in Hollywood, right? So by that time, my English was not good at all. I could not speak, I could not express my ideas or anything that I wanted to say at the moment I was at. So I left. After high school, I went to Colorado. I lived in Colorado for a year, and I had a big why. It was being an actress in the U.S., and I really wanted to improve my English, my accent, my pronunciation, and I actually really wanted to just be able to speak because I was not able to express myself. And so that was like the beginning of my learning language journey. When I moved to Boulder, Colorado, I was just there as an au pair, as a nanny, taking care of 4 kids. No, sorry, 3 kids. And they taught me more than I had learned in 18 years of English lessons in Mexico.
Oh, wow. Honestly, yes, I think that's probably one of the best ways of learning a language. But what do you feel like was different from your 18 years of learning this at school, I guess, right? To then, I mean, of course, you live with a family, you live with those 3 kids, they always talk to you, but what do you feel like was a change within you that you realized, oh, actually, I can express my thoughts. I can act in this language. I know my things.
At the beginning, it was really tough. I couldn't understand what they're saying. I also couldn't express myself. It was like, it took me like 3, 4 months to be able to actually feel comfortable speaking. But the real game changer, I think, and I can say it with like certainty, that really worked for me, because I saw other friends of mine that were in the same journey, that went to the same school, that didn't really make that click, or that couldn't really express themselves as they wanted to. So for me, that was listening, like really really active listening, and I would always pay a lot of attention to the kids, and to every single word they were saying, and to every single new phrase that they were telling me. I would just pay attention, and I would not only let the words go by, or just like yeah, leave my head. I would be with that word in my head for like the whole day. And for example, if they told me, I don't know, steep, right? We were riding bikes, and then there was this like very steep street. And so steep was, I remember this word, steep was that word that I didn't know, I hadn't heard it before. And so I made the click between, okay, the kid is going down the hill, or going down this street that is like this. And so I, even if I didn't perfectly know what steep meant, I would keep that word in mind, and I would be like, steep, 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 steep. And then I would search it, and then I would know what that was. Or I would ask them. I would ask the kid, like, what does that mean? And he would just say like, oh, pow, it's just like, it's very, and he would say steep again, because he didn't have the words. But he would say like, it's very steep, or it's steep, and I would just make connections. But yeah, I think the game changer for me was to really listen, and keep the expression or the word that I really wanted to say and to express later on.
For sure. And I think also if you're in a place where everyone speaks the language, it's kind of, you start seeing it again in another place, right? So first, for example, you were riding the bike and you remember steep, and then someone else says steep, and then it makes a connection in your brain that, wait, I know that word. That was the hill
Exactly.
that the kid was riding.
Exactly.
Yes.
Repetition is key.
Exactly. That's, I feel like, me with my Spanish learning. It's every time I hear a word and then next day someone says it, I'm like, okay, neural connection. New neural
Yes.
connection was just formed. So you were in Colorado for a year, working as an au pair, learning English. So how did you then decide, okay, you're still there to get to Hollywood and to become an actress. So how was that path from Colorado to there?
So after Colorado, I came back to Mexico, and I was here for a year, and I took acting lessons in Mexico City, though I didn't like the approach. I always felt like they were just focusing on my appearances. My teachers would tell me like, "Oh, you need to, wear high heels and wear makeup and do this and that." And it was like I felt like a fish out of the water on the lessons I took in Mexico City, and this is why I decided to go to LA, as I thought it was gonna be less superficial.
It sounds more like a modeling agency rather than an acting
Right?
one.
Exactly. And it was an acting school. And this is why I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I'm coming here to learn, and I am taking acting classes. It's not like I'm in an actual audition right now. I'm just like taking lessons and learning how to act better. And they would just, they would always focus on my makeup and my looks, and yeah.
So when you go to LA, how was your time there? Like, was that any different? Because I mean, you ultimately didn't end up pursuing this career path for a very long time. So how was your time getting to LA and your experience there pursuing acting there already?
It was tough. LA is a tough city. I got to LA um, without knowing anybody. I knew one person. I knew only one person, and I got to his apartment. It's a crazy story, but he was living with 10 other guys. I got there. I was 20 at the time, so it was just like, so everything was so bizarre for me. I was not expecting that kind of craziness in LA. But I was also kind of aware of the consequences that my actions would have, because since the beginning I said, I'm going to leave Mexico. I want to go to LA. I want to be an actress. And if that means sleeping under a bridge and eating tuna cans every day, I'm okay with it. But then, of course, you say it and then you don't believe that is going to happen. And of course, that didn't happen. That was not my reality. But I did suffer a lot. Like there was a lot of tough moments in LA. And for the first 8 months, I didn't go to an acting school. I didn't act, and I didn't do anything that I was supposed to because I didn't have any money. So I had to work. I had to find my way of living, and so that's why for the first 8 months I just focused on making some money in order to pay rent.
Hmm. And then once you did after 8 months, did you apply to a school or did you apply to casting calls? What was the procedure after?
Yeah, I found a really cool acting studio that's called Anthony Mandel or Mindel. Yeah, that's how I pronounce it. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation of his last name, but yeah, Anthony Mindel. And I really really loved it there, and it was actually the acting school of Shailene Woodley. She's on The Fault in Our Stars. So I found this acting studio and I started going there every day. It was not every day, every week, like once or twice a week. So it was not much as I wanted. But I also had to work. Like I couldn't afford not working because my parents were not financially supporting me. I was on my own. I started going to some auditions through some websites, but they were not the best auditions, because I mean it was just like some short films, like people, film university would post there like, hey, we need an actress, blah blah blah. There were some commercials, but not many, and I couldn't audition as much as I wanted to because I didn't have a visa. I was just living there as with my tourist visa and just taking these acting lessons. This is why I couldn't audition in like greater castings.
After that time, how long did you stay there before you realized, okay, maybe this is not my path and my chapter for now? How long was the time and what was the pivotal point where you realized, okay, I think that's good. Thank you, let's stop
Yeah.
here. What was the point for you?
Yeah. So I stayed in LA for 2 years. After that, I came back to Mexico. And the reason I came back was because there was this lawyer that advised me to go back to my country and really like build huge body of work, be famous in my country in order to apply for an artist visa. This is why I came back to Mexico. Well, I arrived to Mexico City again for another 6 months, where I started auditioning, and I realized that that's where I started to realize that it was not the path for me, because I was not feeling well with myself. I was feeling depressed. I was every audition I was going to, I was just like, it didn't felt right. For what I've heard, it's the same everywhere. Casting directors and producers would always be flirting with the girls, and I just couldn't stand that. It was just not for me. I was not gonna accept that. And so that's when I started to think what else I can do in life. I also was afraid of quitting and telling everybody that I had failed in what I said, in what I had said from since I was 9 that I wanted to do in life. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do something else, but in between studying university, I'm gonna audition because I do want to be an actress. But a part of me knew that that was not my path. And that's when I decided to leave for a month, to travel for a month to Europe. And that's where I met Filippo, my boyfriend, my Italian boyfriend. And that changed the course of everything.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing sometimes admitting to others, and I feel like the fear, because sometimes usually deep down, we know if something is not right. Like we know the feeling, but exactly making the big step of saying, okay, this is actually not for me. I know I said it since I was 9. I know a lot of time and money and everything was invested in this. Like I put my heart and soul into this, but it's okay. And I think it's such a big, strong step. So, what do you feel like is your biggest learning from that chapter of your life, those 2, 3, 4 years where you were really focused on casting, classes, working, moving to LA, this time period of your life? What do you feel like was your biggest learning from it?
One of the lessons of that time was, well, first of all, I understood how I didn't want to leave when I was in LA. Like I saw all of these people and all of these crazy situations and sad situations they were living in, and that made me understand what I really don't want in my life. So that was a huge lesson, and this is why I always recommend everybody to just travel and move abroad, and like have an experience of this kind, of just being by yourself, being uncomfortable sometimes, because it really gives you clarity on who you want to be and who you don't want to be. So that was one lesson. And another lesson that I can think about now is every move you make, every action you make has a consequence. And when I was 20, that I decided to go to LA, and I said, like, if I have to sleep under a bridge, and if I have to starve, I'm gonna do it. I was already aware of this phrase that I'm just saying now, like, but I'm in another way, because I was not aware as I am now, but I had it in myself. And this is how my life has always been. Whatever I decide at this moment is going to have consequences, either good or bad. But I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I can now put into words, because back then I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and if I have to do this and that, like, I'm gonna be okay. But now I can, like, actually put them into words.
We never know the entire path, and it's just one step, kind of like one image by image, you unlock what it's going to be. And I think it's also, I agree 100%, it's the best to try and really just, you have this idea, okay, go. Try it out, see how it goes, because otherwise you would always think about it. I think if you would never moved it and never tried and never really did your best there, you would always thought like, but actually I really want to be an actress. But no, you tried your best and you realized that actually maybe there are other things that you enjoyed about this, but a lot of sides of this industry, of this job, were just something you didn't want to do and something that didn't excite you and didn't feel right. That's a very important and good realization about this.
Yeah, and I also think that I don't know if I really wanted to be an actress, you know? Like I don't know if I really gave it all. It was, and so that also makes me think that if I didn't put my 100%, because I did things. Of course, I like moved to LA and I did, you know, I went to this school and I did things in order to make that happen. Also think that I didn't do everything I could and everything I had to make it happen. And that also makes me think that maybe that was not my dream. It was just the idea of the dream, but I was not willing to put all of the effort and all the work into actually making it happen. Since the beginning, it was just like, it's not there as 100%. It was just the idea of.
That just makes so much sense because I think I see people oftentimes saying, "Oh, I really want to do this or that," but then objectively,
Do
I
you
know,
really?
did I really do my best? Probably not. Did I really want it? Maybe just something about the idea sounded good. So, what do you think for you? What about the idea of being an actress sounded good to you, which was like the superficial reason in a way, but not the deep down reason? So, what was it for you that was actually this sounds fun at first?
I think it was 100% recognition. I don't know if you've heard or I don't know if you've done any of Tony Robbins's courses or programs. There's a program that he does every year online, and it's called UPW, Unleash Your Power Within. And so I did this course, and he speaks about like five different needs that we all have. And so he speaks about all of them, and one of them is recognition. So you kind of just have to, you know, go deep into yourself and actually and find why are you doing what you're doing, and if it's just for, you know, like you need to fulfill one of those needs, then you know why you're doing it. And yeah, so I think being an actress for me was 100% just being recognized and being heard, and yeah.
I'm gonna look into this course. Sounds very, very, very interesting to see because 100%. I feel like once we have an idea or a dream, but if we're actually willing to put in a lot of work, a lot of process, go through a lot of rejection, and still continue, then probably it has more truth to us than and show up every day with little steps. But if that's not there, maybe even if you think it's your dream, maybe it's not your dream.
Definitely, definitely. And you also you need to be willing to do it for free. I know this sounds like a cliche, but it is true. And before I couldn't really grasp that, you know. I was just like, what do you mean? Like I wouldn't act for free, and I wouldn't act for free. But today I share a lot of free language learning content, and I do it for free. And I'm not expecting anything from anyone. Of course, now I have my online courses, etc. But when I first started on TikTok, I was just giving, you know, information for free, and it just felt nice and right to do it. And then when we have like this idea of the dream, for example, the idea of the dream in social media is reaching 500,000 followers. Today I have 500,000 followers on TikTok, and it didn't change my life. I'm still making videos for you. I'm still doing the work, and that milestone or that dream doesn't make me better or doesn't make me feel more happy with who I am. I'm still, the journey is what makes you feel happy. And I know it's so cliche, like we hear it everywhere, but it's so true. And I couldn't understand it, but I now know that whenever I'm gonna reach that other milestone in my life, it's just gonna be another one, and then I'm gonna be starving for the next one.
If you can enjoy the process of doing those things, and of course doing everything in life for free, of course there's also, you have to pay your bills and live your life, but still the ability to give things for free and share and just, yeah, I think it's a much better indicator of what you're actually passionate about because you're willing to invest your time into this, you're willing to share, and you're excited. And 100% that reaching milestones feels fun in the moment, but then it's like, okay, now it's a million that I'm going after. So, so it's
Exactly.
never going to be 100% just the milestone that's actually fulfilling, but it's the entire story and process and interactions with people and everything to get there
Yeah,
and to be there.
yeah, definitely.
But after this chapter, as you already mentioned, you not moved, you decided to go on a trip for a month to Europe. So what was that trip? Did you also said you met some Filippo there? You also did language learning and other languages that you speak now. Did it also start coming in, or how was that trip? I mean, I guess it was a break after closing one chapter of life. So how was that trip?
I traveled for a month through Europe, different parts of Europe, and my first stop was Rome. And the very last day I was in Rome, I met Filippo. I was sitting on a fountain. He approached me, he touched my shoulder and asked if I could move because he was taking pictures. He was working on a project with a photographer and they needed the fountain to be clear. So I was one of the people sitting on that fountain. So I moved, and that's how we met. And of course, it's a very, very long story, a beautiful story, but I'm saving that for a book. But yeah, just a short, quick spoiler. He gave me a beautiful ride on his scooter through Rome. It was amazing. And yeah, so we fell in love.
It sounds like a movie scene where it's like, I take a month-long break, I sit in a fountain, and
I
that's how we
know.
meet.
I know it was everything is so romantic. I was writing on my journal. I had my earphones on, and so I was listening to I don't know if you know this pianist called Ludovico Einaudi.
Yes, I love him.
So
Yes,
I was listening Ludovico Einaudi, this song called Divenire.
yes.
Beautiful. Like everything was just like not even in the movies. Like I always say like, this doesn't happen, like this stuff doesn't happen. And then like it happened to me. And so now I do believe in all those romantic movies. Yeah, so I was just taking a break of everything in my life. I had I was already deciding if I should quit acting and do something else. And I was also breaking up. I had just broken up with a relationship, very toxic relationship that lasted for like 10 years. We were not boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. We were, like just on that
Situationship.
situationship. Exactly. And just a month before, I told him like I can't do this anymore, and he didn't even know I was gonna go to Europe. But a month after, I left and I went to Europe. And yeah, so I everything like opened up for me when I decided to close things up that were not working in my life. And so that was my trip to Europe. I stayed there for 30 days, so a whole month. And then I came back to Mexico and having a talk with Filippo in one of the destinations that we saw each other again, because we saw each other again while I was traveling. We talked about the acting world because he was also an actor, and that's how I can say like that made us connect very well since the very beginning, because that was like the first thing we asked to each other, like what do you do for a living, or what do you do? And we both said like we are actors, and we were just tired, and he was also very tired about the acting world and how it worked and all the dynamics. And so we both decided to quit whenever we went back to our countries. We were in London at that time.
And how did then from there you change path into languages? Is that how you started learning Italian for you? Or what was the chapter once you got back to Mexico? You started university, or because you said that's what you initially wanted to do, or how did it all unravel after?
So when I came back, I really when I was thinking what else I could do, the only thing I had for certain was I speak English. I know that language. I can have a conversation, and so that's all I knew. And I Google careers that need English, and so translating and interpreting came up. And that's how I started on this journey. I started university a year after, because the first year was about understanding where we could actually live together and be together. And so the first thing that came to our minds was, okay, I'm gonna go to Europe. It's gonna be easier. I wanna study languages. So if I live in Italy or if I live in France, that's gonna be easier. I'm gonna be immersed in the language, blah blah blah. But then that was not the best choice, because I had to wait for a whole year to learn French. I had to already know French in order to apply for university. And so I had to wait for a whole year. But in 2017 and then half of 2018, I had to dedicate myself to learn French. And after that, I had to wait another year in order to apply for any university. And so it was 2 years that I had to wait. And I said, no, that's a lot. I was already, well, I was 24 when I met Filippo, but I was going to be 26 but by the time that I could actually apply for a university in Europe. And so he decided to move to come to Mexico. I found my major in Guadalajara.
And how did you get to San Miguel? That's where you're originally from. Also, for context, for people who don't know Mexico and who don't know San Miguel, I think it's the most like, I think it's like the Florence of Mexico. It's a very, there's so much art and culture and so many beautiful, I don't know, it's just, that's my weekend getaways place when I want peace and calm and inspiration and beauty and wonder. That's where I go. But yeah, just for context, that's where you live right
Yeah.
now. That's where you base right now. So how did you get there? Are you from there, or did you, after your studies, decided to go there?
I'm from here. I'm from San Miguel. My whole
You're so
family is.
lucky. So amazing.
It's a beautiful place. I'm very grateful, and yeah, it's an amazing place to be from.
Do you feel like growing up in San Miguel, you had a lot of insights into this like cultural and arts and a lot of people coming from different places? Do you feel like it really impacted you also as a person? Because I feel like it's a very open-minded and very beautiful place.
It's changed a lot. So I wouldn't say growing up had like, like I didn't have all this approach to art. Or even though my school was next to Fabrica Aurora, even though it's next to it, like I would never go. I would never go. I feel like growing up Mexican, even though you grow up in San Miguel, but if both of your families and parents are Mexican and from San Miguel, you kind of stay in a very close circle. You only, yeah, I mean, and also schools. Like the school I went to, it was almost all Mexicans, and yeah, people that I knew. And so I didn't have this. And then you hear about all of these other schools that are international and then have like Americans. And there were, at the time, there were like three other schools that had a lot of American kids or Canadian kids, but I was just focused on my group of people. So I don't think it had an impact on me growing up, because now it's a whole different thing.
But actually, it makes so much sense. I feel like people come and build their communities and I guess open their like English speaking schools or something. But it's not exactly, it's not very like a big exchange between cultures. And I guess, yeah, maybe now it's different, but it makes sense that at the beginning when you were growing up, like it just wasn't like when people started coming, it just wasn't the thing. So you said interpreting because that was your next step because you realized that you speak English. What can you do? Let's go. So now your entire thing, which you really share online, and you have the online course you have your mindful approach to language learning and your special method. So how did you develop that, and how did you add French and Italian to your languages? I guess you just started learning it because you thought you're going to go to the university, and Italian, well, probably I assume because of Filippo Italian, right? So how did you then go about actually I'm not just going to be interpreting, but on top of that, let me develop this whole method to teach other people. So, what was this transition for you?
When I started university, I had French and English since the beginning, right? I was not in the English lessons because I did a test and it came out that I like knew all, yeah, like I already knew all of it. And so I didn't have English lessons through university. And so I had that free time, but then I did have French since the beginning. And I knew zero French. And it was like 3 years and 8 months, almost 4 years of learning French. We would have French almost every day for 3 hours. Okay. And I thought I would always see, people almost graduating, and they couldn't really speak the language. And I would ask them, like, do you really get to the third year, and can you actually speak French, because I don't feel like I am progressing? And they were like, yeah, yeah, you'll be able to feel that way, that you can speak blah blah blah. And I never felt that way. I never felt that way. I ended up, and I was the best of my class, the second best or the best, sometimes the best, sometimes the second best. It was two of us that would always have great grades. And I'm not bragging about it. I actually don't brag about it. I hate it. I hated being the best of the class because I didn't learn. If I had learned, I would be very proud of myself, but I'm not proud because I was not able to express myself and to speak. And even though the grades said differently, the opposite actually. And so I finished university with the C2 in French, which is the greatest grade, or mark that you can meet in a language. And I couldn't speak. I had everything in my head. I knew all the grammar. I knew like all the rules, but that doesn't work for real life. Who cares if I know everything if I cannot communicate with you, and if I cannot
Hmm.
connect with you? And so this is why I was very frustrated, and I started learning Italian. I kind of forget about French, and it was the pandemic, and I started learning Italian by translating songs. And I would just do that. Filippo, my boyfriend, never helped me with lessons. People always excuse themselves or say that, yeah, but you have a boyfriend and that's easier. Or, yeah, but you lived in Colorado, so that's easier. Or, like all of this. I was going to say a bad word, but it's like, no. Like when I went to Colorado, as I said, I had some other friends that didn't get to the level I was or I am in English. And like now in my courses, I have had two girls married to Italian guys for 10 years, and they don't speak a word of Italian. Like it's not an excuse. And so I just started learning all of these songs, translating, really analyzing them. I started paying a lot of attention and listening to what Filippo would tell to his parents. I would just stop in my head, of course. And whenever I would listen something, I would stop in one phrase or one word that I really wanted to really understand. And that's how I started learning Italian. After learning Italian and seeing the results, the quick results that I I made by just translating songs and then trying to say things, I started doing the same thing with French. And that's when my French started to actually go. I started being more fluent. I started to understand everything that I would hear on a video or on a song. And then I did the same thing with English, even though English was already in my body, and like it was of course the language that I felt more comfortable in. I also did it with English, and I know I make a lot of mistakes. Being a translator, being an interpreter, or being a polyglot doesn't mean that I am perfect. Doesn't mean that I always speak perfectly without any grammar mistake. But we've been talking for more than 30 minutes. We've been connecting for more than 30 minutes, and that's what matters. I mean, if I can get the message across, that's already, I mean, that's success.
I think that's super, super empowering to see that even if you do this professionally, you have your method and you teach people, it's so great and so amazing to also show that it's okay. You don't have to know everything perfectly. You can't speak until the moment you know everything perfectly, because that's not how it works. Real conversations are what drives it. And I really loved your example of French, how on paper you were the best student. You were so good. You did it for 3 years. You had it every day, but it didn't lead anywhere for you at that point because it was just book grammar, structures, stuff like that. And it wasn't life, it wasn't applicable. And I think for some people it may be. Some people, have a like photographic memory where they just read something, memorize for them, whatever. It doesn't matter how they learn something. But I think it's so empowering to say that there are different ways. You don't have to go the traditional way of just memorizing a bunch of grammar, because that's not how you're going to speak fast. So I guess that's how you develop your method, right? You realize that there is more of a life approach to learning the language. And then you started doing this. So how did you go from developing your method to starting to share this on social media and really share kind of the insights that you were trying to do for so long, and then you just realized, wait, there's a better way to do this. This is not how you're supposed to learn.
So it's been changing a bit. I started in the pandemic, in 2020, July. I opened my TikTok account, and the very first video I shared was how to say I love coffee. I think I love coffee in four languages, and so I said it in four languages: French, Italian, English, and Spanish. And then after that, like, people started following me, and then I started putting like English lessons, like very short English lessons using grammar. And they had, the biggest visualizations. I don't know how to say that word.
Visualizations, I think.
Visualizations.
But that's also
Visualization.
that's also my third language, so I don't know what to say. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, many views. But little by little, I realized that learning a language was all about your confidence, was all about self confidence. Because after having all these people on TikTok, I started on Instagram, because many of them were like just, following me on Instagram. And I only had my life, like Instagram was not about languages. And so I started doing, okay, I said, okay, if all of these people are coming from TikTok, because I'm teaching English, what can I do on Instagram? And I wanted them to have something else, not the same thing that they were seeing on TikTok. And so I created the word of the day. And so for every day I would say a new word. And so I would say, like, the word of the day is steep, blah 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 blah. What does that mean? And then two examples in real life with like two phrases. And then la parola del giorno in italiano, che it's the same thing, and then in French. And so I did that for 2 years. And then I was very, I was very consistent, but I didn't see the results. I felt like I felt like I was just saying it and doing it for myself, because at the beginning it was also for myself. I wanted to have more vocabulary in all of the languages that I knew. And so this is why I started the word of the day. But then I didn't feel the power or the reach that it could actually have. And so it felt pointless. At one time, it felt pointless. So I decided to change the approach and to start empowering people. And not only, and also because I traveled to Paris, and I felt so dumb speaking French. And I felt all of these, like, feelings that you feel when you want to show the world that you can speak the language without any mistakes. And so this is why I developed this method of, you really need to just don't give a fuck. Sorry for my French, but yeah, so that's a huge part of what I teach. I give you all of these self-developing tools because I believe that that is the actual game changer on learning a language and on actually speaking it.
Hmm. Honestly, I think I agree 100%. That's probably the most important thing of really just being comfortable with yourself, and it's okay. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. You need to try. I remember for me, French was also a language that I had in school with no progress for like 6 years, no progress whatsoever. And I remember that I did an internship for half a year in Paris in 2021. And I think the internship was 6 months. I stayed there for 7 months, but for 5 months, I barely spoke any French. It was also, lockdown kind of time, so I only talked to my team. My manager was from Ecuador. He didn't speak any French, so everyone was speaking English for him. So in a way, I was like, yes, I don't have to speak French, but also exactly that defeats the purpose. And I remember also something. We had one team dinner a few weeks before I left, and I remember this one colleague who was from Romania, and her husband was French, and she moved to France, and she learned the language. And one thing she told me that really, really stood out to me, she was like, "What are you doing? Like, you've been here for 5 months. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not trying to speak French to everyone? Let it sound bad. Let it sound wrong. Like, just this is your chance. Like, you're literally in Paris for half a year. Like, why are you not doing this?" And I remember, but I was saying like, yes, but I feel like, it's not good. And I feel like I want people, you know, exactly what you were saying. Like, I wanted to prove myself that I can say it. Like, I can keep up with the Parisians. I can do it right. But there's no point in trying to prove anything to anyone. That's not the point. That's not the point how
Exactly.
you get there. That's not the point how you learn. And I just remember something clicked in me and I thought, wait, you're so right. So I started speaking French to that colleague. I started speaking to the others, and it's just, even in the last month where I was there, I felt so much better. And it started like, it just started going. I just stopped caring whatsoever how I sound, what I sound. And I think also now I'm at a level where I don't have to speak it every day, but if there's someone I speak it with, I feel great. I feel comfortable. Of course, not everything. Of course, there are certain things I can't express. I don't have, certain specific words, but that's okay. And I think that's such an empowering and big thing. And I feel like for me, I haven't learned a new language since then. And I think now that I'm in Mexico and I'm trying to learn Spanish, I feel like it's been it hasn't been also as smooth and as direct. So if there is, what advice would you give to people who want to learn a language? And especially, I feel like if you are, if you can surround yourself with it, or if you have the tools such as, for example, you were saying like song translation, things like that, how do you go about learning it? Because I think for me also, I mean, Spanish is similar to French for me, so I feel like I can't, like, I understand most things, I'm fine. Like, I can express very, very simple, basic things. But for example, last week I walked by the Turkish Cultural Center in Mexico City, and I realized they have Turkish classes. So I thought, what is some rational thing I could do? Let me sign up for Turkish classes. So now, actually, after our recording, I have my Turkish class. And the funny thing is that they teach it in Spanish. They explain the grammar and the language and everything in Spanish, and then they say the Turkish thing. So for me, it's a double class. My brain in that class, my brain is exploding. It's two systems that I'm building up. But I mean, I'm still at the beginning, and I feel like what you said, I know I have Turkish friends, so from listening to Turkish music, I feel like I know more than from the one. Okay, it's been only one class so far I went to, but I feel like, yes, grammar and learning and stuff like that is important, but I feel like to see the success result of, oh, I can speak already, I can say something, like that gives you so much confidence and that empowers you so much to keep going and going. So I don't know, what is your approach? What is in general your advice for someone who starts to learn? Of course, you have the entire program for this, but just like one advice that you feel like this is how you start speaking.
Okay. So first of all, forget grammar. That would be my first advice. Forget about grammar. Don't learn with the grammar because you're gonna be stuck in, like, am I saying it right? Is this the correct grammar I need to use for the thing that I want to say? Blah blah blah. And grammar only tells you how Spanish or how English or how whatever language you're learning decided to put their puzzle. Okay. And of course, like speaking about the tenses and speaking about the person that you're talking, blah, 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 blah. But when you forget about the names in grammar that we are used to, like this is the present simple, then we're going to see the subjunctive. How do you say the conjuntivo, subjuntivo in English?
I
You
don't,
don't
I,
have it.
they don't have it. Subjunctive, you don't
English
have it.
English doesn't have that one, that that tense, and so it makes it so confusing. Instead of just like tell me how to say this thing and how to express myself with this word or this phrase that I want to say in this moment. And so my approach is analyze a song. Like the easiest way to start is with songs. Then I would say conversations and videos and etc. if you are not in the country. But this is actually what I have in my courses. Like I put together a lot of conversations, real life conversations, and then we analyze them. And in order for you to start expressing yourself with them, and your brain is making those connections, it's really like you won't know when you're gonna start actually speaking. It just happens. You don't even know when that was. You just start doing it, and this is the beauty of just trusting the process. Your brain is working, your brain is making all of these connections. We have to learn in a different way, because if we just learn with the grammar and we're stick to the grammar, it's just not gonna flow. So forget about grammar, translate songs. This is gonna help you see how they decided to this language. For example, if you translate a song in German, you'll see that they put the verb at the very end of the sentence instead of in the middle or in the beginning, as we do in Spanish, for example. And so this is how you're gonna, I always say, translate it literal at the beginning. For example, if the word in the song or the sentence in the song says "I love you," literally putting it like I always, I'm doing this because I leave a line. I first transcribe. It's really important to do it by hand. So first transcribe the song, but leave a line, an empty line for every sentence, right? Because that's where you're gonna translate everything. And so if the song says "I love you," first I in Mexico in Mexican is yo. Then love is amor, and then you is tú. With this sentence, I would be saying literally yo amor tú. That doesn't make any sense, right? But if I put the whole thing on the translator, it's gonna say I love you, te amo, no, te amo, te quiero. And we all know that I love you is a sentence that expresses love, that expresses that you as a person love somebody else, right? I love you. And so we're learning with meaning, and not only by words. And then of course you're gonna start catching that you means tú, and that I means yo, and that's how your brain is making all those connections, and then you're gonna be able to unravel all of the messages and all of the words by themselves, and be able to put them together in another sentence. But for at the beginning, like I love you, if I'm saying I love you, I know that I'm expressing love for someone else.
I really love the approach of translating the song and then just understanding exactly how the structure works. You know what it is, even though it doesn't sound, I think that's what you were saying, right? Even if it's not like perfect translation or whatever, like you start understanding. And I think it's also started coming together as puzzle piece in your head, right? So it's like every time you hear it in another song or someone says it or you read it somewhere and it really comes together. I think it's one of the best feelings when you listen to a song in a language that you're learning, and then eventually, like the 20th time you listen to the song, you start realizing another line. You're like, wait, I understand another line. This
Yes.
makes sense. And I really love your mindful approach of actually writing it down, a song, because this is just it's also easier to remember. It's like with music, it goes into you. So thank you. I'm gonna try this with Spanish and Turkish because
Yeah, yeah,
it's
try
been a
it.
journey.
And then the thing is just like you need to take out the melody. So when you see that in your language whatever you translated means something that you can use in a conversation, just take out the melody and use it in a conversation.
Start speaking with song quotes. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, no joke. I did that with Italian, you know? It's really, really powerful. If the song is let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Okay, you how many times it repeats let it be? If you actually write what let it be is, you're gonna see that it means it doesn't matter, you know, like just let it flow or go with the flow. That's the meaning. And so you can take out that melody and use that in your next conversation if you want to say let it be to somebody, if you want to express that to somebody. And so of course I did this with like 30, 40 songs. It's not like you're gonna be speaking the language if you translate just one song. And then there are so many poetic songs that might not work, but what they still work because you're learning vocabulary. If the song says eyes are like stars, I don't know. It's not like I'm gonna say that in real life, like your eyes are stars. No, but I can. But now I know that stars. Now I know that word. Whenever I want to see, like, look at the stars, my brain is gonna be like, what was that? I know what is that up there, and then you go back to that song and you're like, oh yes, stars, you know. So yeah, that's like the easiest thing I can recommend you to do. I can advise you to do right now.
I love this tip. Okay, I'm gonna try. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm really excited. I'm gonna decompose 30, 40 songs and see. I'm sure there'll be much more progress than from just trying to, I don't know, pick something up and learn and memorize and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And one more thing, accept the language as it is. We just need to know that another language is another language. It's not going to be the same as yours. It's not going to express what you want to express as you are used to. For example, if I say I'm running late, if you translate it to Spanish, is going to be estoy corriendo tarde, which is the actual verb for run. You know, that doesn't make any sense in Spanish. In Spanish, we say voy tarde or se me está haciendo tarde. And if you're only thinking in your language, and if you're only thinking like, okay, I want to say I'm running late in Spanish, how would I say it? Oh yes, running, it's corriendo because you learned it. No, you know, like you're gonna be wrong, or you just have to accept the language as it is. And if you translate I'm running late and you see that the translation is voy tarde, just be okay with that and say it that way. And that will allow you to stop translating everything in your mind. You just have to go with what the language decided.
I think this is so, so, so important because, and I think that's also why the songs are much more useful than just grammar and memorizing vocabulary because you will try to puzzle and you will try to translate and your brain will just get stuck instead of, yes, just taking maybe two phrases, right? Like your eyes are like stars and then your eyes are blue, green, whatever, you know, like you
Exactly.
combine things with things
Exactly.
instead of trying to be like,
Exactly.
okay, how do I, okay, blue, but eyes are feminine or masculine? Like, how do I use, like, how do I change the blue in order to say that? Like
Exactly.
that used to get me stuck in French so much. I used to be
Hmm.
so scared, like, which gender is this word? Like, I don't know what to say. It doesn't matter. If you learn it as like phrases and words and stuff like that, it's much more real and it's much more applicable. And then, of course, you can perfect your grammar and stuff like that. But for the beginning, thank you so much. This has been such a good tip for this. But I wanted to move on to the next stage where I wanted to ask you about your future vision because again, part of this project is in order being able to come back and see what happened in the future. So, what is your future vision? What is your dream for the next few years, for life in general? What would you like to do? Where would you like to be?
I would like to start doing conferences. That's one of my main goals in a short term. Since I'm 20, and I was actually pursuing acting, and I didn't know how could I or what could I say. But I've always wanted to be in a TED Talk, and now I know what can I say in a TED Talk. And that's crazy how you just have a dream, or just an idea, and then 10 years later you are in the place where you can actually say something in that direction. And so yeah, so definitely being a TED speaker, doing some more and appearing in some more conferences and forums, podcasts, and yeah, that's what my future looks like. Then the rest, I don't know.
And that's very exciting. And I love this comparison that you always wanted to be a TED Talk speaker, but you had no idea what you would say. And now I know my things. I have that figured out, and I think it's very beautiful because probably when you were 20 and thinking about this, you were like, I want this right now. Like, I want to speak. I don't know. Because, yeah, I mean, I've been at that point. It's like, I just want it now. Like, give me a TED Talk. Give me a Forbes 30 under 30. Give it all to me right now.
Yeah,
But exactly, like, as we talked also before, that all those titles, there are certain things that we really enjoy, but it's the process of getting there. And I think for you, having this TED Talk is going to be reflecting on all your entire journey and being able to present your learnings and your wisdom and things you know for sure. I think it's going to be a very beautiful, rewarding experience for yourself, not even for anyone else, but like, I mean, for anyone else, it'll be valuable, of course, as well. But for you, it'll be especially valuable from a perspective of, I am here. This is my journey, and I can proudly share that with you as well. So that's very, very
definitely.
beautiful. So
Thank you.
the last part of this interview, I would like to do a rapid fire question session. So I'm just going to ask you a question, and whatever comes to your mind, just feel free to answer. So who inspires you and why?
My mom inspires me a lot because she's always smiling and she has the best attitude and the best energy. I
Amazing.
feel like that's inspiring. Of course, I have other people that inspire me, but it just came to my mind.
Moms, honestly, same. I think if one person I had to think of it, moms are always they're the people. So yes, that's beautiful. And she brings you celery juice.
And she brought me celery juice today. Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Okay, what has been the most exciting project so far that you worked on?
Honestly, my online courses. I love being able to help others and through my courses, and the reactions, the messages I get from that is the best I have ever experienced.
Mm-hmm. And my next question would be, I guess it's also maybe connected. What are you most proud of?
I don't know. I would say wait, I forgot I forgot the word in English. It's my courage. Yes. That
Courage.
that's what I'm most proud of. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a very, very important one, a very, very big one. Then, what helped you grow and find your audience on social media in the world out there?
Just giving my all, and really wanting to teach something that helped me in order for them not to go through that, and have it easier. I think that helped me grow because it has all been very honest.
About creating value and really helping people and really being there for them. Amazing. Okay, what excites you the most about your everyday?
These are I hadn't think about this one. The growth that I am having along with Filippo, my boyfriend, that excites me every day. Just looking back on where we were before and where we are now, and what we've built together, that amazes me and it excites me in a future,
Hmm.
like where we're actually gonna end up.
So, how do you feel like you influenced each other?
I feel like we have both feed each other during these years. First of all, how it all started. For example, I talked to Filippo about TED. He didn't have a clue about TED Talks, and like a year ago he was a TED speaker. And so that's just something that blew my mind, because I was the one that told him, like, I want to be a TED speaker, and then he ended up being a TED speaker before I did, and I love it. Like, I mean, I'm very, very happy about that. It's not like I'm like, oh, but I was the one that had the dream. No, no, no. It's just a way that I have seen that we have both helped each other materialize. And on the other hand, I was the first who told him like he should meditate, and then he surpassed me. He's no better than the teacher. Like he started on this journey of meditating and being the best he could. He started doing he did the Tony Robbins program, and then because of him, I did it. Through all of these years, we have been feeding each other through different things and stuff that we feel like are taking us to our best selves. And yeah, I can tell you many other examples, but that I cannot come up with right now. But yeah, he's also been a great inspiration on my growth and development journey.
It's the best when you can feed into each other and help each other grow. And you share this idea, and then the other one takes it on, and you learn through this. And yeah, I think that's the best, and that's amazing, amazing to see, and very excited to see where you continue together growing. What is your word for 2025? Your guiding word for the year?
My guiding word for 2025. My word for 2025, I feel that it is focus. And yeah, yeah, more focus. I want to be more focused.
Where attention goes, energy flows. I love this expression where it's like where you focus on, that's where you're going to see the best development and the best growth. So, yes, focus. Really good one.
Exactly.
Then, what message would you like to give to your younger self? Younger self, maybe who was 9 and really wanted to act. Younger self, maybe your 20-year-old self who realized this is not for her. Whoever you feel like needs some advice, who would you like to give some message or advice to?
Yeah, I would say everything does come into place, even if you don't think it will. Yes,
Yes, just trusting the process. That's such a big one. Yes.
definitely.
And my last question for you is, what is a message for your future self?
Believe in yourself. Just believing in yourself, because I doubt it sometimes. A lot of times I doubt if what I'm doing is the correct thing to do, if I should keep going, if I should. And yeah, I feel like I need to believe more in my message and in what I really have to share.
For sure. I think that's such a big one. And again, I can relate so much to this too. Building something up and then be like, why did I feels like, I don't know, like I built a sandcastle and then I destroyed it and then I built it again and I destroyed it. So I 100% relate to this, to just believe and just like keep going, keep going. And as you said, the message to your younger self, it will make sense later on. Like you will see the puzzle piece, you will see how it comes together, but you just have to continue, you just have to go through and believe in yourself and have the courage and strength.
Just like a language.
Exactly, exactly. Like it will make sense step by step. You're not going to be great, but you just have to start talking because otherwise you'll be stuck in your head with your grammar forever.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Paulina, for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, your insights. I can't wait to try the song language learning advice and see where it goes and report back to you. But thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we end?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much. If you wanna know more of what I do in Spanish, I'm on my social media, or you can just send me a message, and I can also answer in English. Yeah, happy to do it.
Or in Italian or in French?
Or exactly.
Exactly. Are you planning on learning any other languages?
I do want to learn another language, but I haven't. I don't know which one, and I still haven't make the time for that.
Okay.
Which yeah, I should, but I don't know. I still don't know which one, but
It's
I do.
okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna be speaking 6 languages or five.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Yes. I mean, and you literally having the techniques of doing it, I think it'd be so cool to also, one day when you decide to do it, like document how you learn it to show actually people from zero, like this is actually possible, using the things that you worked out. It is 100% possible. So yeah.
Totally.
Okay. I'll share all your information so people can find you and reach out to you and see in Spanish what you do. And yes, thank you so much again for being here. That was it. That was another episode of the Green Tea Bakery. As always, let me know if there are any insights, anything particular that stood out to you, and I'll see you in another episode. Bye.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.